Welcome to The Connection, a weekly radio program where we share our experiences and expertise with stories of caring, courage, and change right here in Connecticut. Listen to learn about needed resources to improve your well-being and transform your life. Now, here are the hosts of The Connection, Lisa DeMattis-Lepore and Ann Baldwin.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Connection right here on WTIC News Talk 1080. As you just heard, I am Ann Baldwin and grateful to be here with you today. Lisa, how are you?
Oh, Ann, I miss seeing your beautiful face. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You know, we're both getting to that point. We're almost both going to hit the big 6-0.
Oh, God. I know.
Can you believe it?
I can't.
I can't either.
No.
I can't either. And, you know, I heard you and our guest, Daryl McGraw, we're going to bring him on shortly, but I got to know what's going on with this jailhouse cake that you guys were talking about. But before we do that, let's get Daryl on the program. Daryl McGraw, again, recently was appointed to a very high appointment, and he is the co-chair of the Police Accountability Task Force. And it's Transparency and Accountability Task Force, we should say. And you were appointed to that by Senator Looney. And Daryl McGraw, you've been on the show so many times. Lisa, I think we can say he's absolutely, so far, our favorite guest. So, Daryl, why don't you tell us a little bit about what recently happened and this task force? We know what's happening in this world, and just kind of give our listeners a little bit of an outline of what your responsibilities are and why this task force was created in the first place.
Okay, so I guess last year, around June 2019, the legislators actually put in to create a police transparency and accountability task force. So this was an idea. This was something that a lot of stuff was going on, and it really was created to focus on like three main charges. One, like basically looking at the interactions of police officers with people with mental health and physical disabilities. What does that engagement look like? So that was one, to look at that and see if there's some work that needs to be done. Could we do better? Because a lot of our people that have mental health challenges or physical disabilities have reported that, you know, they've had negative interactions. Like, you know, right off the top, a lot of times, you don't know someone's death or they're dealing with something, and then that interaction with a law enforcement officer who does not have that knowledge could turn out to be a negative experience for that individual, right? Because no one's walking around with a "I'm deaf" shirt or "I'm blind" or "I'm this," and they shouldn't have to. But police officers should be trained, and we want to make sure Connecticut police officers are trained in interactions with them. The other charge was making sure, do we go far enough with police stops when a person is pulled over, motor vehicle stops? And should police officers hand them a receipt or, you know, something telling them who they are, their demographics, why they were stopped, like this one extra step. So we're looking at that. But then the third charge was anything that we thought that was deemed necessary to look at, that the task force felt necessary to look at, that was going on in Connecticut in reference to transparency and accountability for police departments. Well, a lot of times it came up to police brutality and, excessive uses of force. So that was something that had been brought up, and it's something that many people wanted to address, as well as like Senator Winfield and others. There actually, I believe, and if I mistake the number, but between last year and this year, there have been 7 deaths, police-related deaths, right? And one of them, there were 3 just this year, where an officer stepped in front of a vehicle that was moving in an attempt to stop the vehicle, and he killed the driver. He stepped in front and dumped his weapon into the car and killed the driver. So was that a use of force? Was he in line to do, was he in the right to do that? So all these things are being investigated, and then, of course, tragedy happens in our state. George Floyd happens, and Mr. Rashad Brooks is murdered as well by police officers. So that's it in a nutshell.
I'm just thinking about what a amazing role and opportunity this is for you, and how you can make some significant changes in our state just because of who you are and your past and what you stand for, and educating others on, what needs to happen and what's right.
Those of you guys know my story. I've been on your show numerous times, and I talked about being tased by the police officers. I talked about being on the ground. The difference between George Floyd and I is that I lived and he did, right? So to have this opportunity to educate, right? We're working together. We have to do this together as a state, right? And the country's in an uproar with black and brown people and people who are trying to pick sides, when in reality, we all should be working together to move forward, to make change,
I'm also in awe, Daryl, with the way that you also, with some of the videos and things that you post and the work that you do, but even with your own family and your own children, and really, educating everyone on, really how grateful you are and the roads that you've, crossed, and the fact that you've, turned your life around. But I think it's more important than that. I think that the message is that you can overcome so much in your life and be inspiring and teach others what you've learned and how you've changed. And I know that when I watch your videos and the things that you do and how you are so positive about it, it changes my life in a positive way. It makes me look and think about things a lot differently. And so I've learned a lot from you, and I know that I'll be interested to see how this goes with you in Connecticut and where you bring our state. But I know you're going to bring it to great things. So I'm just grateful.
Well, thank you so much. I think it's like that. We talked before. Lisa, you and I talked a lot, and we talk about and we've talked about this on the show about me living in purpose, right? Having been given that book and a purpose-driven life, and actually just walking in purpose. And I believe that we all those of us that find that purpose to walk in, then life is kind of easy because we're just going where the purpose takes us, and using our light, like that song, "Our Little Light of Mine." It's funny, but it actually, I'm just trying to shine that little light, and hopefully, because it started out me and just inspiring people that have walked the same path that I have. I didn't know that I would actually attract other people who have not taken that journey, but are also just as inspired. So, that keeps me going. So I really appreciate that.
If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Daryl McGraw. And Daryl, I do want to rewind a little bit into your past, but I also want our listeners to know that you have state certifications as an addiction counselor, recovery support specialist, criminal justice professor. You're called on to speak in the human service field all over the place and for Fortune 500 companies. And you yourself have, or do you say you still are, as I do, battling addiction? So, you've got the street cred. You earned it the hard way. You earned it the hard way, but at least you're taking that street cred now and you're putting it out there because, you've done jail time.
Oh, yeah. I spent 10 years of my life in and out. I just want to make one quick I'm not a professor yet of criminal justice. I hope to be one day, but I have a certification, and I'm a certified criminal justice professional, which just speaks to the background of being able to utilize my lived experience as well as professional in the professional settings that I do when it comes to criminal justice, and training people on forensic peer support is one of the things that I do. But like you said, I spent 10 years of my life in and out of the Department of Corrections, what I call the installment plan, because I would go in and then come back out, go in and come back out, and I really couldn't get my life together. And like you said, I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means that the last time I used substances was May 7, 2007, and that's the last time I was in the back of a police car. And that journey, I spent 3 years of my life inside of prison, and I wrote a 5-year plan during that time. And that 5-year plan definitely didn't entail me being the chair of the Police Accountability Transparency Accountability Task Force, but that having written that plan has allowed me to be there. So, it's really cool, and sometimes it's surreal. Like, you don't really believe that this is your life.
Right.
But, I'm very grateful.
Right. I know we kind of have to be grateful for our past, right, Daryl? Because, in every problem, there's a blessing, and herein lies the blessing. I want you to tell people, though, because to Lisa's point, I watch the same, videos that you do, and you're so into cooking. And a reminder, Lisa, you owe him a pizza. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you on social media.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm Daryl McGraw on Facebook, just simple, like old school. So, it's Daryl McGraw. It's easy to find me there. Also am at formerly Inc., FORMERLYINC on Instagram, as well as Harry, HARRY, Tubman, TUBMAN, 18 on Instagram. Yeah, I'm around. I'm just trying to stay visible, so we don't want to miss somebody to miss the message.
Absolutely. So you guys got to share with me now the story about, because Lisa and I are both turning the big 6-0. So you got to share the story about this jailhouse cake that you're going to make, and I can help you videotape it. I want to hear about that.
So it's interesting. I did not know this, but in York, the women's prison, it's called the Fatty Girl Cake. In the men's prison, it's just called a jail cake, and it's made with oatmeal. And some people I put apples in mine, and we use all different.
I know what your secret ingredient is, though.
Yeah, don't tell.
I'm not going to tell.
All right. Yeah, so I got a secret ingredient. I kind of showed some. I don't know if I told everybody, but yeah, I got some secret ingredients. And so in prison, you don't have like an oven. You don't have like a lot of stuff. They do certain prisons, the ones that were in, had microwaves. And so you make this cake, and we would make them on people's birthdays. Like, if somebody was having a birthday, we would make them a cake. That would be kind of the way that we could, celebrate people's birthday, or sometimes we just made them because we could. And, and it's symbolic to prison. And many people have contacted me. A guy said, I watched that with my son, and I was telling him this is real. And it's just amazing how many people actually see them. People get mad because I don't announce when we're going to do the video, because I didn't know that's what you were supposed to do. But, yeah, we have another one coming out. We're going to make fried rice pretty soon. So I'll have to put it out there a couple of days in advance so people can tune in. But
it was awesome.
We're going to put it out there. Everyone's going to know. Everybody's going to know, so they can watch it and learn how to make a jailhouse cake. It's going to be cool.
Lisa, we're going to have jailhouse cakes.
Do it.
We're going to have jailhouse cakes for our 60th birthday.
No, but here's the thing about it. The video was inspiring. It made me stop and think about, really, you're in jail, you're having your birthday, and the fact that, that folks are celebrating their birthday and what they have to do to make this cake come out. But the thing that really was even more inspiring to me, besides the message that Daryl was giving, was his children were there, and his daughter, she's so adorable, and she's looking at him like, what the heck is my father doing? And right? And she's like, this does not look good, and he's explaining, like, this was what my life was like. And, of course, once they make the cake, it's delicious and they love it. And it was inspiring in a lot of ways. My son watched it, and it was moving because there was a strong message behind the video of what you did. And, it makes people stop and think about, what it's like to have to, live in prison and to deal with, why you got there and to sit in it, and how to, change your life and make improvements and celebrate people and, despite it all, to move forward. And so I just want to experience this with you. I was like, this is amazing. This is great. So, Ann, we're going to plan this.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. And you could like interview us while we're making it.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
You think I know how to do that? We could do that.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
The interesting thing is that when I was making it, of course, like, it's unscripted, so I don't know what she's going to say or do, or the looks on her face.
She was adorable.
And her face is just hilarious. But the interesting thing is it was really like, for my daughter, of course, but my son, right? Because, the statistics say that 1 in 3 black males will spend a certain amount of time in prison, right? And that's what the data says. And I'm fighting that, and I'm saying, we're going to make a jail cake out here. You'll never make one in prison.
Nice.
Right? You'll never have to worry about that. So let me give you this experience here. So I'm just leading the way with my own kids. Like, I'm trying to beat the statistics and keep not only my kids out, but other people's kids out as well, and try to inspire them and give them hope as well.
Right.
It was inspiring, and we're going to do it. I would be so blessed and grateful to experience this with you. So thank you. And you're going to be there and tape. We got to get this going.
All right. Once this COVID thing is behind us.
Just tell me. All we got to do is talk offline. We'll get it. I already got the spot, and you can set up a camera. We'll set
All
up
right. Perfect.
Okay. All right.
It'll be dope.
I know, because that's the hardest part about this COVID thing is you guys aren't here in the studio, and I'm here by myself, and I want to see your smiling faces. But again, if you're tuning in, we're speaking with Daryl McGraw, who's just an amazing individual, who's in recovery, who's done jail time, who's now the co-chair of the Police Accountability Transparency and Accountability Task Force. So I want to ask you, Daryl, and I think our listeners are curious because you've got an inside look, and it's interesting that this task force was formed before all of this other stuff has happened in our world. From the inside looking out, rather, what's going to happen? I mean, is this stuff going to settle down? Is there hope for us to kind of, figure this stuff out, or where are we headed not only as a state but as a country?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I think that there's a couple of things that are going on. We've had some very unfortunate and very hard, we talk about trauma. A lot of times we talk about trauma and the trauma that I experienced going through my journey, right? But anytime something like what happens to George Floyd or Rashard Brooks happens on live TV, we're re-traumatized. Mm-hmm. Everybody should be traumatized by that, right? And it's hard to not see that. But to have been in those shoes and see it, it only reopens those wounds, and it's fearful as a person that has a black son, right? I worry about that, an interaction happening to him, a mistake. Sometimes they say, well, this was a mistake. So how do we prevent it? It comes down to training. It comes down to retraining officers, and some officers may not be fit to be officers, right?
Right.
How do we examine that? But as a country, we're seeing a lot of marches, right? And I just said this earlier to a friend. I wish the marches stopped once the police officers were arrested.
Right.
And I only say that because if we did that, it would show the power in the numbers, right? And then if they didn't get convicted, we could come out full force again. Now we're doing so much marching, people don't really know what they're marching for. They're just marching. And, we believe in action steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest thing is, if you go to a march and you're a white person, did you get 5 phone numbers from 5 black people? Did you introduce yourself to any people of color? My black friends, did you introduce yourself to any people? Did you introduce yourself to any white people? If not, we're doing a disservice by marching. It's only self-serving because we throw the T-shirt on, we march, we look like we're unified, but we don't know anybody. We didn't meet one person more than we knew before we got there. So everybody goes back to their neutral corners. When in reality, we should be like going there. If you're an accountant, come to the inner city and teach financial wellness. If you're a cook, go out and teach people how to cook soul food. But we need to be able to come together as a community, and until we do that and have real conversations, like I do a lot of I'm getting calls all over to do implicit bias training, but it's not just implicit bias training. It's interaction between the two cultures, and we can identify what it is that we see different and what can we agree on, but it's about communication. And a lot of times people don't people are uncomfortable, but uncomfortable is where the growth happens at.
Oh, I just love your perspective on that, Daryl, because it's been very frustrating. As a white female, I got to be careful what I say, what I post on social media,
Mm-hmm.
but you're absolutely right. And, in my opinion, this was one really bad, not one, but one really bad cop that did a horrifying thing. And we've got to, I think the unions are protecting a lot of bad people in that profession, and they're part of the problem.
Oh, yeah, but it's a culture. It's a culture. And, I challenge anyone to really look at that video and look in his eyes. When people are begging you to stop doing something, it was something in his eyes that said that he saw nothing wrong with what was happening. And we talk about the dehumanization of people. People are dehumanizing people. So we really need to look at the culture, because I'm not going to say it's not the police officer's fault, but what I'm saying is that when you militarize people and you teach them that, for some officers have reported, for 20 years I was taught to run and gun. Now you want me to be a social worker. Well, maybe that, maybe we don't need you to be a social worker, but maybe we need social workers at the scene, right? Mm-hmm. People talk about defunding the police department. We're not talking about getting rid of police departments, but what we're talking about is shifting resources so people with lived experience may be there to help navigate this conversation. maybe they're social workers, so the professionals that do this work are there along with the police, so everyone gets to go home safely. How do we do that? That's the real focus. And I just want to add that my biggest piece to this is getting the community involved in the conversations. We will be announcing community conversations everywhere. Like, we want to hit at least the 5 regions, because the way the police view things and the way the community view things, I believe, is different. And the police need to hear the community. We've listened to the police for so long. How about the police listening to the community? So we're going to have some listening sessions, and I'm excited to have them.
I'm in awe with your ability to talk about things that you've experienced, but also make it a learning experience for other people, and to not show any anger or resentment, but to always stay positive and constantly in these teaching moments that you give to all of us. And you're really inspiring. And I think I guess what I want to ask you is, where does that come from? We talk about May 7th, the last time that you were 2007. What was it that made you? What was the turning point really for you? What was the turning point that moved you forward?
Yeah, everyone says that, and we talked about this before. Is like, right, the that being arrested on May 7th, being tased, almost losing my life, right, and all due to my addiction, my addictive behavior. And here I am in the police car, arrested again on a $250,000 bond. Like, just my life is going nowhere. And then some guy said, "Hey, West Wing, 25 cell." I was in West Wing, 25 cell, Hartford Correctional. Some guy came by my cell and said, "I got a book for you to read." And I was like, "Man, I don't want to read no books." But he slipped the book under my door, and it was A Purpose-Driven Life. And by me reading that book, which was a 40-day spiritual journey, it just opened my eyes to purpose. What am I doing? Am I living in purpose? Am I living, is my life on purpose? Am I living my life on purpose? And once I figured that out, that I needed to live on purpose and have purpose, and my purpose was to use my story to help enlighten people, to bring hope. That doesn't mean I'm sad. That doesn't mean that I'm not sad or I'm not mad, but I have work to do. Like, a lot of times I don't go to the marches because I believe that my role is at the table, right? My role is at the table. We all are angry, but some of us need to be able to articulate the anger. So I feel like that I've been chosen to do so.
Wow, and you're doing an amazing job. Daryl McGraw, I just can't tell you what a pleasure it is always having you on the show. And hopefully next time you're in studio, and Lisa, hopefully you're back. And we know one thing's for certain. The next time that we are all together, we will be 60 years old, Lisa, and we will have made our jail cake.
Okay.
I don't believe either one of you are 60. And if that's you're the hottest 60-year-olds I've ever seen.
What? Did you hear that?
I might have to card both of you when we see each other.
Oh, that's
all right.
Lisa,
that.
Did you hear Daryl McGraw just called us hot? Now that's a compliment.
I know. That's a compliment.
We are. We do pretty
good. I don't think anybody would disagree. I don't think anyone would disagree. Put your pictures up on the website.
Okay, they're up there. Every week we put in our tune-in memo, and there we are. They're a few years old, but we still kind of look the same. Daryl McGraw, thank you so much. Thank you, and keep up the good work. And it's good to know that we have people like you out there, like you said, articulating the issues.
Thank you. You guys are the best. And this is truly what Black Lives Matter is, when we work together to show and educate that we are in this together. That's the true work. So thank you guys so much for helping out.
Thank you, Daryl.
And of course, we want to thank all of you for tuning in to this edition of The Connection right here on
WTIC News Talk 1080.